Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Connect podcast, where we learn English through conversations that reach into the real parts of your life. I'm Sophia, and right here beside me is the one, the only, Jason.
Hey, Sophia. Hey, everyone. Really happy to be here. Sophia, I have to ask you something before we even start today. And I want you to answer honestly. Not podcast honestly. Actually, honestly.
Uh-oh. Okay, go ahead.
Are you living your dreams?
Jason, we haven't even done the intro yet.
I know. Answer the question.
Some of them, parts of them, the edges of some of them, not all of them. Not yet.
That pause right there told the whole story.
It did, didn't it? Because if the answer were simply yes, a clean, full, uncomplicated yes, it wouldn't take that long to arrive. The pause is where the real answer lives.
And I think if we asked that question to every single person listening right now, really asked it, gave them a quiet moment to actually feel into it, most of them would have a pause too. Maybe a short one. Maybe a very long one.
Because most of us are living some version of our dreams. A partial version, a compromised version, a version that got edited down by practicality, by fear, by the opinions of people we were trying to please, by time, by circumstance, until what we're actually living looks only vaguely like what we once imagined for ourselves.
And here's the thing that makes this so hard to talk about. We're not miserable. Most of us are fine. We have jobs, routines, people we love, moments of genuine happiness. And fine is comfortable enough that questioning it feels ungrateful.
Who am I to want more? Look at everything I have. That thought, I know that thought so well.
But fine is not the same as fully alive. And somewhere, deep down, beneath the routine and the comfort and their reasonable adult life, most people know the difference.
They know what they quieted. They know what they filed away. They know what they stopped letting themselves want because wanting it hurt too much when it felt out of reach.
And today we're bringing all of that into the open. Not to make anyone feel bad about where they are, not to tell you your life should look different, but to ask a question worth asking, honestly, carefully, with real respect for how complicated the answer is.
Are you living your dreams? And if not, what would it actually take to start?
This is Are You Living Your Dreams on the English Connect podcast, and this one is going to get real.
Here's what we have for you. Jason and I are going to have a genuinely honest conversation about dreams, what they are, why so many of us drifted away from them, what it costs us to stay away, and what moving toward them actually looks like in a real, imperfect life.
Then we'll break down 5 vocabulary words and phrases from today's conversation.
And we'll close with a challenge, something specific, something you can do today to take the first honest step toward the life you actually want.
And here's your question for right now, before we begin. Think of the dream, the specific one, the one that's been with you the longest, the one that surfaces at quiet moments and then gets quickly buried again. Do you know the one?
Hold it in your mind. Don't judge it. Don't explain it away. Just hold it. We'll come back to it.
Let's go.
Okay, Jason, I want to start with something that might sound simple, but I think is actually quite deep. What is a dream? Not in the sleeping sense, but in the life sense. What are we actually talking about when we talk about living your dreams?
That's such an important place to start, because I think the word dream has been so overused and so commercialized that it's lost some of its meaning. We hear it in advertisements, in graduation speeches, in motivational posters, and somewhere along the way, it started to sound like it means fame, wealth, a yacht, a perfect body.
The curated, aspirational social media version of a dream.
Which is not what most people actually mean when they say they want to live their dreams. What most people mean is something much quieter and much more personal. A life that feels like theirs, work that feels meaningful, a creative outlet that gives them somewhere to put the things inside them that have nowhere else to go, relationships that feel chosen and real. The feeling, even if only sometimes, that they are exactly where they are supposed to be.
That feeling, that's it, isn't it? That specific feeling of alignment, where what you're doing on the outside matches something true on the inside.
And the absence of that feeling is also very specific. It's a kind of low hum, not pain exactly, not crisis, just a background sense that something is slightly off, that you are slightly adjacent to your own life rather than fully inside it.
Adjacent to your own life. I want to sit with that phrase for a moment because I think it describes something millions of people feel and have no language for. You're going through the motions. You're present in the physical sense, but there's a part of you that's watching from a small distance, thinking, is this it? Is this really what I'm doing with the years?
And the dangerous thing about that feeling is how easy it is to normalize. It doesn't announce itself dramatically. It doesn't demand to be dealt with. It just sits there, quietly, in the background of your life, becoming the wallpaper, until one day you can't even see it anymore, because it's just become the texture of your existence.
And you've forgotten that things could feel different, that you could feel different, that the alignment is real and available, and not just something that happens to other people.
So, how does it happen? How does someone go from the child who knew exactly what they wanted, who had that wild, unself-conscious clarity about what made them come alive, to the adult who can barely remember what the dream was?
I think it happens in layers, and each layer feels reasonable at the time. The first layer is other people's expectations. You grow up inside a family, a culture, a community, all of which have ideas about what a good life looks like. And those ideas are not malicious. The people who hold them usually love you. But they are their ideas, not yours.
And when you're young and you need to belong, you start filtering your own desires through the question of whether they are acceptable, whether they will be approved of. And the desires that pass the filter get expressed, and the ones that don't, they get quiet. Not gone, just quiet.
Then comes the second layer, practicality. You get older, you have bills, you need health insurance, you have people depending on you. And the dream, which was never very practical to begin with, starts to look irresponsible, self-indulgent, like something you would pursue if you could afford to be careless. But you can't afford to be careless. So you choose security over aliveness, and that feels like growing up.
But growing up and giving up are not the same thing. And somewhere in that transition, a lot of people confuse them.
They perform maturity by abandoning desire, as if wanting what you truly want is somehow childish, as if the measure of being a responsible adult is how thoroughly you've overwritten your own nature with what is sensible.
And then the third layer, and I think this is the most insidious one, is time. The longer you spend not living the dream, the more distance accumulates between you and it. And distance starts to feel like evidence. Evidence that the dream wasn't real, that you weren't serious, that you probably couldn't have done it anyway.
The waiting becomes the proof of unworthiness, and that is a devastating trap, because the very thing that should be neutral, the passage of time, becomes a weapon you use against yourself.
So by the time someone is sitting in the life they settled for, they're not just dealing with the original gap between where they are and where they wanted to be. They're dealing with years of accumulated self-doubt, years of rationalization, years of evidence they've constructed for why the dream was never really for them.
The gap gets filled with self-made reasons not to cross it.
Exactly. And here's what I want to say about that, clearly and directly. None of those reasons are the truth. They are protection. Your mind built them to protect you from the pain of wanting something and not getting it. That is an act of survival, not an act of insight.
And survival instincts are powerful, but they are not always wise. Surviving by shrinking is not the same as living.
So then, what does moving back toward the dream actually look like? Because I don't want us to have this conversation and then leave people with nothing but a feeling. What do you actually do?
The first thing, and I believe this is the most important and most skipped step, is to get honest about what the dream actually is. Not what you think you should want. Not the acceptable, polished, presentable version of it. The real one. The embarrassing one. The one that feels too big or too strange or too late to admit out loud.
Because a lot of people who say they don't know what they want actually do know. They just don't have permission to say it, even to themselves.
So give yourself the permission. Sit with this question, not for 5 seconds, but genuinely sit with it. If no one would judge me, if failure were impossible, if age didn't matter and money didn't matter and other people's opinions didn't matter, what would I be doing with my life?
And whatever surfaces in answer to that question, even if it's surprising, even if it's inconvenient, even if it makes no obvious practical sense, write it down. Because that is data.
Real, important, honest data about who you actually are.
And then, step 2, stop treating the dream as all or nothing. This is where I think so many people get stuck. They look at the full version of the dream, the complete, realized, total version, and they compare it to their current reality. And the gap is so enormous that the only logical response seems to be paralysis.
I can't get from here to there. The distance is too great, so I won't move at all.
But no one gets from here to there in one step. No one. The question is not, how do I close the entire gap today? The question is, what is the smallest possible step that moves me in the right direction?
And that step might be very small, embarrassingly small even. Signing up for an online course, writing 1 page, making 1 phone call, spending 1 hour a week on the thing instead of 0 hours.
1 hour a week is 52 hours a year. 52 hours is more than a full work week. Imagine spending a full work week every year on your dream. Over 5 years, that's more than 6 months of working time on the thing that matters most to you.
Starting small is not the same as staying small. Starting small is how you begin without waiting for the perfect conditions that are never going to arrive.
And step 3, the one I think is most underrated, is to give yourself permission to want what you want without justifying it. Because I think one of the invisible weights that keeps people away from their dreams is the exhausting, constant work of defending the desire.
Why do you want that? Is that realistic? What would you even do with that? The questions, sometimes from others, more often from the voice in your own head, that demand your desires make logical sense before they're allowed to exist.
But desire doesn't owe anyone a justification. The fact that something lights you up, that it makes you feel more awake, more yourself, more alive, is sufficient reason. Full stop. You don't need to prove that it's sensible. You don't need to guarantee that it will work. You don't need permission from the practical world for your soul to want what it wants.
And when you stop spending energy justifying the wanting, something opens up. Because all that energy you were using to defend the dream can now go into actually pursuing it.
Which brings me to what I think is the deepest thing we can say today. Living your dreams is not a destination. It is not a moment you arrive at when everything is finally exactly right. It is a direction, a daily, imperfect, sometimes frustrating, always worthwhile direction.
You don't have to be living the dream. You just have to be moving toward it. And moving toward it, genuinely, honestly, in even the smallest way, changes how life feels, even before you arrive.
Because the alignment starts the moment you decide to honor what's true in you, not the moment it all works out. The moment you decide to stop pretending the dream doesn't exist and start treating it like the real and serious and worthy thing that it is.
The direction is the destination, or at least it's where the aliveness is.
And that aliveness, that feeling of being fully inside your own life rather than adjacent to it, is not a luxury. It is not something that some people deserve and others don't. It is what all of this is for.
All of it. The years, the work, the relationships, the whole bewildering, beautiful, difficult experience of being alive. It is for this, for feeling like it's yours.
Is it yours right now?
Getting there. Moving toward it. That's enough for today.
That's enough for today.
All right, everyone, let's break down 5 words and phrases from today's conversation to sharpen your English.
First, alignment.
Meaning. Alignment means the state of being in agreement or harmony, of things lining up correctly with each other. In today's context, alignment describes the feeling of your outer life matching your inner truth, when what you're doing, how you're spending your time, and the direction you're moving all reflect who you actually are and what you actually value. The opposite of alignment is the feeling of being slightly off, of going through motions that don't quite feel like yours. Alignment is not a permanent state. It is something you move toward and maintain through conscious, ongoing choices.
Example sentence. After years of working in a field she had chosen for its salary rather than its meaning, she finally felt a deep sense of alignment when she returned to teaching. The work was harder and paid less, but it felt unmistakably like hers.
Number 2, adjacent.
Meaning. Adjacent means next to something, nearby but not the same as it, close but not quite there.
We used it in a specific and powerful way today, the feeling of being adjacent to your own life. This describes the experience of going through the motions of a life without being fully inside it, being physically present in your routines, your relationships, your work, while some essential part of you feels like it's watching from a slight distance, wondering if this is really it.
Example sentence. He couldn't explain the dissatisfaction to anyone because from the outside his life looked complete, but internally he felt adjacent to it, like a visitor in his own routine who never quite moved in.
Number 3, insidious.
Meaning. Insidious describes something harmful that develops slowly and gradually in a way that is hard to notice until significant damage has already been done. It comes from a Latin word meaning lying in wait. We used it to describe how the passage of time, in the context of an unlived dream, becomes insidious. It quietly accumulates into evidence of unworthiness, into a growing gap, into a story of "it wasn't really for me," without ever announcing itself as the destructive force it is.
Example sentence. The most insidious part of the self-doubt wasn't that it appeared dramatically. It was that it arrived in small, reasonable-sounding thoughts that slowly rewrote what she believed she was capable of.
Number 4. Rationalization.
Meaning, rationalization is the process of constructing seemingly logical reasons to justify a decision or belief that was actually driven by something else, usually fear, avoidance, or discomfort. When we rationalize, we're not lying exactly, but we're not being fully honest either. We're reverse engineering justifications for a conclusion we've already arrived at emotionally. In today's episode, we talked about how people rationalize their distance from their dreams. I'm too old. I'm being realistic. I have responsibilities. All of which may contain some truth, but function primarily as protection from the vulnerability of trying.
Example sentence. He told himself he stayed in the unfulfilling job because of the pension and the stability, but sitting alone one evening, he finally admitted that the real reason was fear, and that everything else had been rationalization.
And number 5, all or nothing.
Meaning. All or nothing describes a way of thinking in which something is seen as either complete and total or completely absent, with no middle ground, no partial progress, no spectrum of possibility. All or nothing thinking is one of the most common and most damaging thinking patterns when it comes to pursuing dreams, because it makes the full, realized version of the dream feel like the only acceptable outcome. If you can't have all of it, you refuse to begin with any of it. And since the full version is usually out of reach at the start, nothing ever gets started at all.
Example sentence. Her all or nothing thinking had kept her paralyzed for years, convinced that if she couldn't write a best-selling novel, there was no point in writing at all. Until a friend pointed out that the point wasn't the bestseller. The point was the writing.
Jason, where are you right now after that conversation? Honestly.
Honestly, I feel like someone just opened a window in a room I didn't realize had been stuffy. Like something shifted. Like I owe myself a conversation I've been postponing.
What's the conversation?
About what I actually want. Not what makes sense. Not what looks responsible. What I actually, genuinely, without justification, want.
That conversation is the beginning of everything. And I think every single person listening today has a version of it waiting for them.
So here is your challenge. Real, specific, and we want you to do it today. Not someday, today.
Find a quiet place, 10 minutes, no phone, no noise, and ask yourself this question. What is the dream I stopped letting myself want? And why did I stop?
Write the answer. Don't edit it. Don't make it sound reasonable. Write the real thing, the embarrassing thing, the one that's been with you the longest.
Then write this underneath it. What would moving toward this look like this week? Not fully arriving, just moving. One step. What is it?
And then come to the comments and tell us. What is the dream? What is the one step? We are in those comments. We are reading every single one. We are rooting for you in the most genuine way.
Because saying it out loud, even in a comment, even to strangers, is an act of courage. It makes the dream real in the world rather than just real in your head. And things that are real in the world are much harder to ignore.
If today's episode reached you, really reached you, share it with one person who needs it. One person who you know is living adjacent to their own life and doesn't have to be. You don't need to explain why you're sending it. Just send it.
Subscribe, leave us a review, and stay with us. We are here every week with conversations that go somewhere real.
And here is the thought we want you to carry today.
Somewhere inside you, there is a version of your life that has been waiting, patiently, without bitterness, without giving up, for you to come back to it. It has survived every year of practicality, every season of fear, every quiet decision to be sensible instead of true. It is still there. Smaller than it once was, maybe. Quieter, but there. And it does not need you to arrive all at once. It does not need you to be fearless or ready or certain. It only needs you to turn toward it, to stop moving away and start moving toward. One honest step, one true choice, one day of living slightly more like yourself than you did yesterday. That is all a dream requires. That is all you have ever needed to give it. Turn toward it. Today. It has been waiting long enough.